Good morning and welcome to our UU Holton Sunday Service online edition from the Unitarian Parlor in Holton, Maine. We are holding shared space for each other this morning, a sacred space that allows us to be our best self, a loving self, a self looking to connect to others. This is the second Sunday of Advent. We want to thank each of you for joining us and sharing part of your day with us. And we're lighting chalice today and our Advent wreath, because you just can't have too many lights this time of year as the last month of December winds down. So last week we lit our first candle in Advent for contemplation, a time to reflect and open to what is new and unexpected. And today's candle is for connection. In our world that is socially distanced right now, to have connections are even more important than usual. And I've been bringing in one Christmas ornament per week during Advent. I brought one in last week, the pink flamingo, which is here in the Advent wreath. And today's ornament is from Linda's childhood tree. It's a miniature motorcycle decorated with pearls. And in her household growing up, they called this the Pearly Davidson. And her dad rode motorcycle, and he still is, in his 80s, still going strong. So this is one of our fun ornaments. It's one of the first ones we look for in the box to hang on the tree. The Pearly Davidson. Special music today is by the Gawler family from Mid-Coast, Maine. When I first saw them perform at Common Ground Country Fair years ago, the first thing I noticed were their smiles and infectious energy. I felt an immediate connection and said to myself, we have to bring the Gawlers to Holton. And we did. This footage is from our Unitarian concert series a couple of years ago with the Gawlers in the church sanctuary. pause and center ourselves in this moment, a brief respite from our busy lives, a chance to catch our breath and to just be. Breathe with me. Opening words this morning are from spiritual writer Thomas More. The world is fast losing its soul, but you don't have to surrender yours. You don't have to live on a mechanical globe. You don't have to suppress your radiant beauty. Live your joy. Go against the grain and don't be made timid by worried rejection. Let nature's curious wisdom fill you. Give your all to the words that are born from your lips. Your Father and your Father's heaven will never abandon you, but always love the scintilla of your spirit. Every little part of you. Live your joy. Find your connection to all things. When we share our sorrow, our suffering is halved. And when we share our joy, our happiness is doubled. We are one, yet separate, sharing this life together. Let us light candles as we share this journey. This first candle is a candle of joy. We are just finishing up the leftovers around our house from Thanksgiving dinner. This is also a candle of joy. Good news of new vaccines that are almost ready to go onto the market in Europe and the United States. As numbers still continue to go up, our prayers are for all those affected. Again, may we have patience and vigilance in these days. Anything else, Ben, this morning?
Well, because of the spikes in the local community, the Carlton Project's been doing distance learning, and I got a candle of joy that I'm very proud of my students being able to be productive and keeping in touch. So I know it's and also my heart goes out to all the other students and teachers out there that might be dealing with distance learning right now. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, but if we all work together, we'll get through it.
And we're lighting a silent candle for any unspoken prayers this morning, for the names and people that are upon your heart. Prayers for our world. And let's just take a few minutes to share this sacred space, to open to prayer, contemplation, send out good energy for those concerns and joys on our heart this morning. We'll take just a moment. For those concerns and names mentioned this morning, we hold them in the light of love and compassion. May we be one in spirit this hour as we remember all of those persons to whom we are connected and for whom we care. We pray that all may find wholeness, contentment, healing, and peace. Amen, and blessed be. This next song by the Dollar Family is about a close connection to a special dog, Old Blue. One of the most challenging areas in our personal life is connection. Making a connection and maintaining that connection with the numerous and varied relationships we have with people. A guy has a cell phone and he's standing at a bus stop shaking his head. He's talking to his phone. Siri, Why am I so bad at relationships with women? I'm sorry, this is Alexa. Relationships are complicated, cumbersome, sometimes bewildering, but relationships are what make up a significant part of our life, and placing a personal emphasis on their vitality is energy well spent and essential to living what we would call a good life. The holiday season is kind of an annual evaluation of your relationships. Of course, with COVID this year, once again, we have to place an asterisk by everything. In most years, we'd be making out our Christmas card lists and gift shopping lists, wondering whose party we're going to be invited to, along with all the family gatherings and social events. It's a once-a-year check-in to see who's in your life and the state of those relationships. Today's topic is on connection, and here is the title slide. It shows a good group of enthusiastic people, all in agreement about something, which is unusual in itself. It's also pre-COVID-19, as you can tell by the lack of face mask coverings and complete disregard for proper social distancing. But what I love about this photo is the beautiful cross-section of people, all smiling, apparently all getting along, and just for a moment, at least, posing long enough to get a good photo. And slide number 2 of a 2-slide PowerPoint today is a Dilbert cartoon by Scott Adams. The pointy-haired boss and Wally are in the break room, and the boss says, "Wally, I need you to practice social distancing until the virus risk has passed." And Wally says, "I already do that. I haven't hugged anyone since the 1980s. As if we needed it, COVID-19 has added an additional complication to the challenges of making connections, physical distancing, and increased reliance upon virtual means of communication and connection. We are social creatures. We need connection, but we are not always good at making that happen. Again, I have a story today from the 1990s, last century, so they say, of when I dropped off a friend of mine at the Greyhound bus station in downtown Bangor. You had to get up early in the morning to make it in time for the New York City departure, but I didn't mind because it gave me an excuse afterwards to walk down the hill to one of my favorite breakfast spots. Are you starting to recognize a familiar pattern here? Once again, it was a very cold day, this time in early February, and the bagel shop, which was located right across the street from where Patty Murphy's is now, was the best place in Bangor to get a good bagel or a cheese Danish. I sat at a table right beside the front entrance, which gave me a good view of the street, as well as everyone that came in and went from the cafe. In those days, when you hung out in a cafe, no one had a laptop or a portable device. People had newspapers, a book, or magazines to read. In my case, I had my knapsack and some journals, along with my bagel, cream cheese, and coffee. But when I sat down at the little table, I noticed it wasn't level, and it teetered just a bit when I placed my elbows on the table. So I reached into my wallet and pulled out a $10 bill and started folding it into a little wad and placed it under the leg of the table, of my cafe table. Now, I wouldn't spill my coffee. About 20 minutes later, a customer comes over to my table and says, "Excuse me, I just wanted to let you know there's a $10 bill under the leg of your table." I smiled and briefly explained my $10 plan to balance my table, and they smiled too as they walked back to their seat across the cafe. 10 minutes later, I noticed someone else walking toward me, and I already knew what they were going to say. "Did you know there's a $10 bill under the leg of your table?" 2 hours later, as I'm still sitting at the table, I continue to have people interrupting me, checking to see if I had noticed the $10 bill. One person who was walking in my direction, pointing at the floor, started to say, "Did you know?" Before they stopped mid-sentence, nodded their head, smiled, and turned around. They had figured it out. He knew that I knew. We had connected. My intent was not to conduct a moral social experiment or create a candid camera-like setup, but it in effect did restore my feel-good optimism in the human capacity for going beyond our own limited and jaded self-interest. The people who approached me at my little table at the bagel shop only wanted to help point out my good fortune of a $10 bill laying next to my foot. No one asked if they could have it. Of course, I'm not sure how many people saw the $10 bill and were just waiting for me to walk away so they could pick it up themselves. But that's not what this story is about. This story is about the basic goodness of so many of us, and about how close we are to connecting to that in ourselves and to anyone that we meet as we go about our daily itinerary. Sitting close to the door also gave me a chance to watch other people, just like they apparently watching me. In one instance, I noticed a street person hanging out on the sidewalk in front of a cafe, and sometimes leaning in the doorway to get out of the wind. Patrons were coming and going. Some gave the guy a little cash, some just walked by. But one middle-aged lady, as she approached the door, stopped, handed him some money, and then paused and had a conversation with him for several minutes. Perhaps both of them were regulars at the bagel shop. I don't know. But what I do know, for those couple of minutes, there was a connection of some kind, person to person. Humanity touching humanity. One story overlapping with another story, somehow, in some way, creating a larger story even again. In this holiday season of giving and receiving, of darkness and lights, of cold and warmth, it can also be a difficult time to connect out of our own loneliness and our solitariness. To connect to generosity, to connect to joy, to connect to the humanity of ourselves and to the humanity of all others. Here is my suggestion to you in this brief homily. Look under someone else's table, so to speak, and see what you can see. Stop just for a moment and get out of your own head and connect with someone else. What is it like to listen to someone, to have a conversation with someone, to help someone if they need help, to ask for help if you're the one who needs it, to simply enjoy being with someone, to hear their story, and for you to tell yours. These are the connections that we all need in this oh so short life. In this holiday season, we all have so much to share, and it is in that sharing that connections and new connections are formed. We are not alone in this world. Even when it feels like we are connected to those things, seen and unseen, things in this world and beyond this world. Connections are everywhere. The reminders are everywhere. Just keep looking and you will be amazed by what you see. Blessings to each of you in this Advent season. Connections to us all. As we extinguish the chalice, we leave this gathered community, but we do not leave our connection, our concerns, or our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith communities. Until we are together again, my friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. And in closing, we have a 1-minute encore by the Gallers. And that's it for today. Thank you all for joining us for today's UU Holton Sunday service. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Practice kindness, keep your attitude positive, and look out for those who are having a difficult time. Have a good week, everyone. We're glad you could be with us today. Thank you, Fanny, for doing the camera work for us and keeping us on track. We'll see everybody next week.